Nelson. I'm your host today because I work in this building and we have this nice seminar room. I'm told today that the microphones don't work, but I'm the only one who used to use them anyway, right? If you've been to prior meetings, I've tried to coax people in, and of course today is the first day we're trying to video it and the microphones aren't working. So we're going to talk loudly and project if you are speaking today. So what is Gusties in Business for some of you that haven't attended before? Well, it kind of is self-descriptive. It's Gusties that are in business, that are looking to network, mentor, stay connected to the school, foster better communication between the college and alumni, and build something that will endure. We've, over the years, had different attempts at this to try to get this type of group going. But now, I think we've got some good traction. We've certainly got the school behind us, and we've got a number of Gustie faculty here today, which is great. Angela Erickson is here today, who's Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement, and she spoke in May about the college's goals for supporting and growing this group, and her ideas for expanding this into more groups like Gusties in Business, Gusties in Healthcare, Gusties in Education, Gusties in Arts, etc. So this is kind of the pilot group. Jess Frant is not here today, but she spoke last month. She's in the Career Development Department, and she spoke last month and gave us an update. We were honored to have Professor Kathy Tunheim speak last month, and she's here again today, which is great. She gave a great talk about her experiences with students and the college's renewed efforts and agenda to support students and alumni and sort of the mystique of the Gustie culture. Next month, I don't see Parker or Brady here, so I'm going to say it and just say that it's happening. President Bergman is supposed to be starting this meeting.
I think it's happening.
I can confirm it too. Okay, good, yes. Because I've been putting it in everything. So. Today, she's going to have, she'll have to, right? And today our featured speaker is Megan Berglund, who's the Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations, and she'll share some updates about the renovation of Nobel Hall and the upcoming Nobel Conference. So first I will go over what the agenda is for these meetings. We show up about 7:45 if you want, and network and mingle. We get the opening remarks going at 8:05. See that? We have a spotlight, which is the Gusties in Business Spotlight, which is Dana Menard, who is not here. So I'm not sure when he thought his time started, but it starts soon. Then we'll hear from Megan Berglund. We also have a News from the Hill segment, and Angela's going to chime in a little bit on that, and then I'm going to give an experience that I had with my son touring recently. And then we'll close with some Q&A and we'll adjourn. One thing that I don't have on here is what we do before we get into the formal program is we do an around the horn with the introductions. So we go around the room and have everybody quickly introduce themselves and briefly state where they're at, what are they doing, why are they here, etc. And then, as you'll see, we have a Gusties Spotlight, which is a more extended version. So Dana Menard, who isn't here, is going to speak, we hope, when he actually arrives, about him in more depth, about a 5-minute discussion about what he's got going on. So to that end, if any of you want to do that, the Gustie Spotlight here at this meeting, I would suggest either emailing Jennifer or myself and letting us know, because we're always looking for people to fill that spot. So if you have interest in being that spotlight person from the Gustie group that talks, get a hold of one of us and we'll definitely get you slotted for a future meeting.
How quick can you prepare?
Yeah, and frankly, if Dana doesn't show up, someone might be able to do it today.
Yeah, Dana texted me and said that there was an accident along 169.
Okay.
I didn't see the text about 10 minutes ago.
All right.
He's on his way.
Okay.
Face the hill. Maybe not driving.
Hopefully he's not driving. I'm sure he's pulled off on the side of the road safely texting.
Yeah.
Well, Well, why don't we do the around the horn introductions, and then hopefully by the time we're done with that, Dana will arrive and can give a little overview of himself. So I will start. Blake Nelson, 1992 grad. I am a partner here at Helmuth & Johnson. I am a real estate lawyer and construction lawyer, and I have my 30th high school reunion tomorrow. So that'll be interesting. They actually asked, I played in bands over the years, and they actually asked, the guy called me and said, would your high school rock band play for this?
I don't think so.
Where are they? Do they still play? And do you know how long it would take, even if we could get together, to learn the crappy 30 songs that we played in my garage in 1988? No, we can't do it. So, in any event, why don't we start here and we'll go around the room. So, if you want to start.
So again, my name and then
Just
why I'm here?
briefly, what you're doing, your job or what,
Okay,
you know.
perfect. I'm Jan Dick. I head up HR for Minneapolis Heart Institute Foundation, and I will just put in a plug. One of the reasons I'm here is to, hello, I want to say hi. But also, I chair the economic and
Management.
Thank you.
There you go.
I always want to say business.
Yeah,
It's
well, I like
economics
it.
and
Yeah.
management advisory group, and it's made up of a group of alumni. It's been in existence for about 6 years, I think, and so we have 30 to 35 Gusties who somehow ended up in business. Not necessarily, we weren't all business grads, and we are trying to help advance that department down at Gustavus. And so we meet 2 times a year, fall and the spring, and then we have engagement teams throughout the year working on different things. So whether it's the internship program, the mentoring program, et cetera, but it's all for the how do we help better that department and students and prospective students that are interested in a business career. So that's about as good as I can do without cutting my tongue. So anyway, I will just say this, that we're at a point where we're probably replenishing some folks that have been with our group for about 2-3 years. So if you have any interest in doing something to help influence things and be an extra set of hands or whatever, just let me know, and I'm happy to tell you more. So, and Kathy Thunheim basically, I would say, started that group, and so she was the faculty advisor. She's not right now. I team up with Jim Hall. So. That was longer than I know you want other people
That
to
was
do.
long, yes. That's great.
I'm not a good one, I'm sorry.
All right, so, Jen.
Good morning, I'm Jennifer, McNamara Burns, graduate of '99. I was in telecommunications in various leadership roles for a number of years, and I recently left. I just launched my own business, business relationship coaching, and I'm working with some other women to bring change management, change leadership, a kind of a new way to look at that into the corporate environment. Very excited about that.
I'm Megan Berglund. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. I am your guest speaker, and in the spirit of camaraderie, my 30-year class reunion is in 2 weeks. Yes. I'm sure it will be very similar.
You'll walk into the room and see a lot of old people.
Right, and when you're on that happen, right?
It's scary.
Indeed.
Age is the great leveler, though. So, I'm Jody Swanson-Ross, class of '85. I'm currently in transition, but primarily in healthcare leadership on the IT side, project portfolio management, and business transformation.
Hi, I'm Kristen Engler. I'm currently a student at Gustavus. I'm here because I'm a guest of Jennifer. I'm Brittany Hancock. I'm the audit supervisor over at Belay, which is a public accounting firm that's literally 2 minutes down the road. And I'm here because it's always fun to kind of get back and connect into Gustavus.
I'm Andrea. Same thing. I'm a designer over at interior. It's from a Miller Furniture Dealer. So
Stand up so that you guys can hear me. I'm Amy Fox. I'm an '08 grad, so I've been in the account management space for about 10 years in the cities. And I work at Ambient Consulting up by Ridgedale, where I partner with C-levels and management within IT to help them with their staffing initiatives, especially cross, contract hire, something. Look forward to meeting you.
Bryce Anderson with the Hayes Company in downtown Minneapolis, insurance side, insurance consulting. I graduated in 1999.
Todd Prow, I'm an 85 grad. I'm an investment advisor. Actually, now I'm a senior because I've been there 30 years with Tealwood Asset Management. I'm also on the alumni board. I mentored a class officer. My 3 kids are gone, so I have a lot of time.
So we will suck it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Morning, everybody. I'm Angela Erickson, class of 2001, Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement at Gustavus. Excited to be here to meet all of you. It's always great to be full.
I'm John Hulbert, class of 1979, and I'm the CEO of Children's Cancer Research Fund.
I'm Ken Stone, class of 1980. I just recently retired from U.S. Bank. I was there my whole career, and I worked part-time for a small company called Barlow Research. And I'm here because my college roommate asked, John asked me. Love it. We still stay in close contact.
I'm Kathy Villers-Harms, class of 85. Also on the alumni board, also a class officer, but also just recently started being an instructor at Gustavus. And so I teach marketing research, and OB, and I'm here to put out a plea, an opportunity. If you have a business or if you are associated with a nonprofit organization and you're looking for a short-term marketing project done, I put together groups of students and do it. Kristen was in one of my classes and did it. I've taught for 2 years and we've done 52 alumni-owned business projects so far. And so if it's something you're interested in, please let me know.
Good morning, my name is Marco Strom. I am a business consultant with, good morning, Smoothie Mitchell. We specialize in helping our clients reduce their spend for 3 areas. That's telecommunications, credit card processing, and small package shipping.
Good morning, I'm Hubert Gavirano. I'm a recent grad class of 2018, and I'm currently interviewing and specifically in Treehouse.
Good morning, my name is Joe Breen, class of 2016. I work for the Ty Hashik State Farm agency in Roseville, which is also a former Gustie. You couldn't make it this morning. I help people with their insurance needs.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Watkins, class of 2017. I'm a benefits consultant with Marsh & McLennan Agency.
Stand up. Good morning, Kathy Thunheim. Great to be back. In fact, I was on campus yesterday from 9 to 4, and I'm not kidding. 50% of the meetings were talking about this group. So you've gotten some panache and attention. That's 2 things for you this morning. Number 1, like Kathy Harms, it's so wonderful to be a fellow faculty member with her. I too am teaching 2 classes this fall, organizational behavior, and human resources, and I do consulting groups, consulting projects in both. I have 10 projects in both classes, and I have 6 filled. So if you need to get anything improved with about 100 hours of free student work, these guys can tell you, right, what wonderful experiences, and most go pretty well, not all, but most. Second thing, some sad news. Kathy and I got an email late last night about Dr. Bruce Johnson, who was the marketing professor for 30 years at Gustavus. He hired me, Kathy replaced him. He fell off a ladder volunteering at his church yesterday, hit his head, and he was at Mayo in surgery last night. And they put him in a coma, so please put him at the top of your prayer list, because good guy, good person, is too early for him. So just think about him today and his family. Yeah, well.
Parker Tinsley, I graduated in 2017, private client consultant from the Gulf Lake State.
Craig Anderson, class of 93. I'm a mortgage consultant with Windrush Mortgage, residential lending in all 50 states.
I'm Paul Allman, class of 91. I am general counsel at Ryan Companies, and I handle construction for the west half of the country.
He's gonna have this.
Well, you guys get to listen to me drone on.
Okay. Feel free. Mike Finstead, class of 93. I'm a residential realtor with RE/MAX Advantage Plus, South Metro.
Eric Hendrickson, class of 94, Tradition Companies. I head up Tradition Mortgage and work with our local bank, Tradition Capital Bank.
Darren Pavlish, 94, partner with Eris Group. We do employee benefits and we're an enrollment firm as well.
Yuri Barron, class of 92. I'm partner at Moss and Burnett Law Firm, practicing the business law department.
Morning, Nathan Marston, Nate Marston, class of 91. I'm a residential mortgage banker, also with Bell Bank Mortgage.
Kelvin Miller, class of 1973, and I'm in transition right now. I really want this job at Dairy Queen because I delivered my resume, and as I was leaving, the receptionist said, "Oh, wouldn't you like a dilly bar?" I said, "Oh, what?" She said, "We have a freezer, and we give all of our guests dilly bars." I really want to work there. If anyone has a contact, you do? Okay.
CEO.
Eric?
CEO.
Oh, the
Went to
CEO.
law school at
Oh,
Harvard.
even better. Thank you.
Knut Nelson, class of 94, work for a company called Engage, and we are employee benefits specialists.
I'm Gary Hurd, class of 1980, and I always appreciate it when John and Kelvin come, because then I'm not the oldest person in the room. And I'm a nonprofit leader and currently looking for a new nonprofit leadership role.
Good morning, I'm Dan Smith, 2006 grad. I work in mortgage banking with Tradition Companies.
And I'm Jaron Johnson. I'm a lawyer. I specialize in real estate and business law. I'm class 91. I've got no business running this camera.
Flip the microphone.
Through the short straw.
Great, well, we went around the horn. Briefly, this is the mission statement for the group that we developed, and I think it accurately summarizes our goals. And in keeping with that, our spotlight speaker, who managed to make it through traffic and get here on time, I was hoping we could buy enough time with you around the horn. So actually, when you took more time, I was like, this is fine. Dana Menard. So Dana, if you'd like to get up and wow us with a more in-depth summary about the city's wealth strategies and your newish venture, right?
I just have to apologize. It will not be a wow experience. It'll be like my drive here, 2 miles an hour for the last 45 minutes. So good morning, everybody. A few of you know me, and I know a few faces. Some are new. I was part of the original group of members that tried to start this group a few years ago, and we tried and we failed, and we tried and we failed, and we tried and failed again, and this looks like it's definitely going to be the best run so far. Thanks again to Angela for bringing the college in this time. It's been a great experience. I graduated back in 2001. I was the first person in my whole entire family ever go to college, so I had no idea what to expect going into it. Gustavus was by far the best experience I could ever imagine, and I push everybody I run into to check out Gustavus even if it's not on the college list. So, as it says up there that I'm the founder and CEO of Twin Cities Wealth Strategies, right after graduation, graduated with the good old sociology, anthropology, business management. Instead knows what I'm talking about. So, starting off, right out of college, I was, as everybody does initially, I'm gonna go and become a doctor because that's where all the money is. After toying around with a couple ideas, I soon learned that sitting in a lab, doing chemistry and doing biology was fun, but I didn't want to do it all day, every day. I was way more of a social being. I loved numbers, I loved math, I loved science, but sitting in the lab just drove me nuts. And I figured if I never got into med school, then that would be my ultimate demise. So I started toying around with a few different job options and did some job shadowing, something that I had to figure out myself because at the time there wasn't really a program at Gustavus like there is now where people are put together and could do some shadowing and mentoring and the like. So I reached out and I did a full month-long shadow with a dentist, a doctor, and a financial advisor. I had no idea what I was getting into, but at the end of it, I knew for sure that doing financial planning is exactly what I wanted to do with my life. So, as everybody does when they're a recent grad and you're getting into the industry, I jumped into the ranks of working for American Express Financial Advisors, which is now Ameriprise. Great training, great company, home based here in Minneapolis. Everybody knows at least 25, 30 people that work there. So, or did, exactly. So, fast forward a few years, everything's going great. The group of guys that I trained with left and started their own firm. So I left with them, an independent firm, and I was with them for the last 10 years. Seeing how the industry was progressing and moving, I decided that it was time to do what I felt the industry needed, and that was to start a fee-only financial planning firm. Fee-only, for those that don't know, everybody kind of have an idea what a financial advisor does? Yes. But nobody really understands the different types of advisors out there. And that's the biggest one. So most are either insurance-based, bank-based, or RIA. 3 different models. If you say them, they're buzzwords, nobody understands, it goes right over their heads. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is compensation, first and foremost. Most advisors, 95% or so, earn a living making commissions and some fees. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs to make a living. However, I was seeing with all of my clients, they were looking, and when they were Googling how to find a financial advisor, they were coming across all of these lists of what you should look for, what the options are available. And it was coming clear to me that the industry was pushing towards a fiduciary standard in which clients were demanding that their advisors were looking for not necessarily just investments or insurance products, but advice that was in their best interest. So I brought it among myself to start Twin Cities Wealth Strategies, and that's where I am today. One of the biggest areas that I've found that was a massive hole in the financial planning world was college planning. Most advisors are really great when it comes to investments, really great when it comes to insurance. That's about it. I hate to say it. College planning is one of the biggest black holes that the industry has. So Twin Cities Wealth Strategies, one of our main tenets is to help families pay for college down to the penny. It's something that is not offered by any other firm out there that I've noticed. Most of them will sell you a life insurance policy to try to fund college for what reason I still can't put my finger on it. But my guess is because they can't honestly offer a product or solution that can fill that void, that makes them enough money to put in the time and the energy. It's a very convoluted industry. I had no idea what I was getting into when I was taking out my student loans initially. My parents couldn't be of help because they never went through it. All the advisors that we talked to were pushing life insurance to help fill that void. There's nothing wrong with life insurance, but it's not the jack of all trades that it's always sold to be. So what I've done is put together a program that helps parents and students sit down, go through their whole entire financial lives, organize it in a manner which will allow them to either, one, qualify for the most amount of student aid possible, and figure out how to pay for it before they have to start taking out loans. And that comes to figuring out the schools that you're applying to, figuring out whether they're merit-based or needs-based. It's one thing most people don't even think about. They just figure, that's the school I want to go to, that's where I'm going. However I'm going to pay for it, I'm going to pay for it. And that's kind of as far as we as a society get to when planning for college. So Gustavus, thankfully, is both needs and merit-based. But if you were to talk to somebody who wants to go to Harvard, maybe, or wants to go to Yale, 2 completely different experiences. Harvard is needs-based. Yale is merit-based. That will depend, or tell you a pretty big reason of how that individual is going to get aid from that school. So, a big decision, especially when you're looking at coming out. Gustavus is a perfect example. 4 years at Gustavus, it's going to run you a couple $100,000. That's not a small pittance these days. In fact, student loan debt just hit over $1.5 trillion in this country. Just a smidge behind mortgage debt. And yet everybody knows how to get a house. There's only one real way, right? Take the mortgage, talk to a banker, get a mortgage, done and done. Nice and simple and easy process. When it comes to student loan planning and college planning, there are about 25 or 30 different moving parts at all times that you have to manage and juggle to figure that all out. So Twin Cities Wealth Strategies was really built upon the foundation of helping fill that void of college planning for the next generation coming up, because it's becoming such a massive detractor of growth. Once everybody gets their nice degree and they can hang it on their wall, now they're stuck in limbo trying to figure out, okay, how do I pay off $200,000 before I can get married, start having kids, buy a house? All of these things are being pushed further and further and further back in the time frames, because students are now coming out with way more debt than they can pay off. So that is really the impetus of how Twin Cities Wealth Strategies was initially developed. The other aspect of it is, great, you've got your loans, you've gone through college, now you've got the loans. How do you go about refinancing? What are all the options in doing such? How does student loan forgiveness work? What industries allow student loan forgiveness, if at all possible? And what are all the hoops and things you have to jump through in order to make that work? Plus, you add on top of that the tax implications of it, which most people still don't understand. And now with the new tax laws, we're getting thrown even more fun stuff to dig through. But at the end of the day, let's pretend you have $100,000, you've been a good boy or girl, and you've made your payments for 10 whole years, and you're just lucky enough to be in forgiveness. It actually comes to you, if you were forgiven that $100,000, you're hit with a $100,000 tax bill from the IRS. Another thing that people don't think, they think it's just forgiven, they don't have to think about it. So, if you guys know anybody that is in the boat of either planning for college or has loans and are trying to figure out how to manage them, feel free to reach out, because that's where we find that we are best service to people. And I don't want to take any more time. Thank you very much.
Dana, what if your son won't qualify for financial aid or merit?
Then,
Hypothetically.
I'm not saying that for my son. I'm just
Second
Thanks, Dana. All right, next we've got Megan Berglund, Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations at Gustavus. She's going to get up and tell us a little bit more about the renovation of Nobel Hall, the upcoming Nobel Conference. We've got a couple of slides, so if you want to use the clicker, let's go back.
So good morning. I just had this moment of alarm that I'd be the person in the room whose phone rang. So excuse that. So good morning. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Megan Berglund. As he said, I am the Director of Foundation and Corporate Relations of the college. And I want to just give you three pieces of information. What do I do at Gustavus? Okay, and then two sort of projects that I work on a regular basis that give you a sense of some of what's going on at the school and some of what I do there. So I always say to people, yeah, it's nice to know your job title. What do you do after you park your car? Okay, so after I park my car in the morning, what I do is try to find support for college priorities, external dollars to match what's going on at the school. There are two of us who do similar types of work, one of whom belongs to the academic division and helps faculty with their research projects, and I belong to the advancement division, and I do everything that is not faculty research. What that means is, if you are a chemist and you want to study fluorescence, you will work with my colleague Sarah. If you are that same chemist and you want to redo the curriculum, or you want to engage students in summer research, or you want to help us remodel Nobel Hall in terms of your ideas and so forth, then you work with me. So, what's super fun about my job is it is a humanist's dream in that I go across the school, I work with both faculty and staff, and what I ask is, what are you trying to achieve now, in 2 years, and what's the 5 or 10 year sort of dream project? And so right now in my office, the folders that are open, just for instance, one is working with the Title IX coordinator. We are hoping to submit to the Department of the Department of Justice, a grant around dating violence, stalking, etc. This is a national issue. We should get, I say all the time, whoever's gonna help us pay to do better, I would love to talk to that person. I have a folder open for the Jazz Jamboree, which is a new program to bring high school jazz bands onto campus once a year, work with headliners out of Minneapolis, introduce them to Gustavus, introduce them to the new director of the jazz bands, so that's a fun one. I recently helped the nursing department find a grant to purchase simulation mannequins for the nursing education program. So there's a foundation that wants to help train rural nurses. We've got those. So what I do is try to find foundation dollars, corporate sponsorships, corporate gifts, or in-kind gifts. For instance, we're building this giant science building. Do you have equipment that you want us to use? We have the first right of refusal, for instance, on your equipment. Do you want to donate the floor? Do you want to donate the glass? Do you want to donate the UV film? Those kinds of things. So, I know a little bit about a lot about what's going on campus, and it is super fun, okay? So, that's sort of in broad strokes what I do on a daily basis. There's just 2 projects I wanted to give you an update on in case you haven't been on campus recently. And one is the renovation of Nobel Hall. And in case you don't know, the whole building is going to be renovated and we're going to punch it out. And it will increase in size by 15,000 square feet. So it's a pretty big project. Nobel Hall is jammed beyond capacity at present. And 30% of the students at Gustavus either major or minor in a natural science. So great news, but it's jammed beyond capacity. So there's a couple, I want to tell you what these slides are. This is just a rendering of the kind of space that we're dreaming of, and this is actually an architectural rendering. Beyond the fact that there will be completely updated classrooms, labs, etc., they're building in this time more community space, what I personally always call sticky spaces, places that people see and they think, I want to stay there, I want to talk to my professors there, I want to work with my classmates there, etc. So this is just a rendering of one of the atriums. This is a photograph from now several months ago. It is a massive, massive, massive project. Yesterday they were pouring concrete for the actual floors, part of the floor system, and it's absolutely insane. I don't know if any of you have children. I do. I used to pull over at construction sites and just watch like concrete mixers and cement trucks and so forth. This is a full day extravaganza if you want to do that with somebody you know. So Nobel Hall is taking shape. One of the fun things about the new version of Nobel is that it will be physically connected to the theater space, just so there's more natural movement between natural science and the theater. Gusties do many things. So it's completely normal for a chemistry major to also be in theater and dance at Gustavus. So that will be a nice feature. And also, if you've been to a theater production recently, you do realize that that lobby is funky, and there is not space to mingle and talk to people, so that will be a nice improvement. This is a $70 million project, which is a lot. I belong to the money portion of the college. We were tasked with raising $50 million of that $70 million before that project could get launched. And building's being built, so things are great. Now, that being said, of course, there are still always opportunities for individual gifts, for corporate sponsorships, for people who want their products in the room. Stop and see me if you know a company, a colleague, a business who wants to be part of science education at Gustavus. So that is an exciting one. Just for the sake of mnemonic devices, I also brought the Nobel Conference for you. The Nobel Conference is something I'm always working on, all the time. And the reason is because not only that it happens every single year, but because the themes change every year, we are constantly trying to find people who want to partner with us relative to, yes, we care about science education, or yes, we care about engaged citizens who care about the marriage between science and ethics and social impact, for instance, and or yes, we care about the particular topic that's going to be presented. And I'm going to tell you one of my challenges, and I'm going to hope that you think about it while you're stuck in traffic and you call me and give me some ideas, okay? You went to Gustavus. You know that this is an absolute gem of a program. Super high caliber, crazy expertise that comes to campus every year. Challenging in ways, and really respectful in ways that we're not that used to. There are so many people who have never heard of this conference right in our backyard. And that makes my job particularly tricky because when I call people and say, I'm calling on behalf of Gustavus, we have this conference. This year it's on soil, giant agribusiness down in southern Minnesota, right? Have you heard of the Nobel Conference? Because then I need to know where to start the conversation. No. And that is a problem. So, this year's conference is on soil. Listen up. Next year's conference is on climate change. The following year is on cancer drugs. The following year is on big data. So, there are lots of opportunities for you to attend, for you to bring your colleagues, for you to call me and say, Megan, I have a colleague at this other place, some other business that would probably like to have a sponsorship in higher education. That would be delightful for me to hear. So one other thing I want you to know that I have printed down here, the current director of the whole conference is Lisa Helpke, a philosophy professor. Lisa has done a tremendous job of adding programming around the conference that takes place throughout the year. So last night, there was a event that took place on the state fairgrounds in the 4-H building, which makes sense because we're talking about soil. And that was a sort of Twin City preview of this October's conference. Was anybody there last night? Okay, so it would have been fun because they bring in experts in the field, and then they bring in the theater of public policy, and they do an improv riff on these very important issues. Tonight and today, there's a symposium at the Arboretum on campus, again, leading up to the conference. And there's soil tours at regional farms later this week.
Hey Megan,
Yes,
can I add one too?
absolutely.
Just yesterday, I got a call from Christina Carlton, who's executive director at Norway House, asked if I would facilitate, again, I did it last year at ASI, August 28, Lisa Helke and a professor from Gustavus will be at the Norway House. Nice evening event, glass of wine, kind of, short introduction. And another professor from the Nobel Peace Prize Forum at Augsburg. We did it last year. It was really fun. I thought it might be kind of boring. Oh my gosh, it was really fun. So I'm not a soil person, but anyway, I'm going to learn, right? August 28th. So if you want, come to that.
Yeah, so I don't need to fill all my minutes. I want to do two things. I want to invite you to participate in this stuff, okay? And by stuff, I mean, I'm literally dealing with the entire campus, which is what makes my job super fun. I work with Kathy and Gustavus Women in Leadership. I work with Angela on what's going on with alumni events and who is there and et cetera. I work with the dining service. Everything. And so I invite you, please, to call me when you have, hey, Megan, I've got an idea, or I've got a business, or I want to come. All those things would be terrific. And then I just want to be your favorite speaker. So you see this nifty G pen. Kathy asked if I could find them. So if you would like a G pen when you leave today, if you promise you will wear it, you are welcome to take one. And here are my business cards so that you can find me when you have an idea or you want to talk about what's going on campus, because I happen to have a pulse on many, many different departments. So I don't want to go over, and I want to, does anybody have any questions?
Who's doing the construction project?
Carl Anderson. Yes.
Which, who is the Nobel laureate coming this year?
Ratan Lal he was part of the, and I won't get the acronym right, but there was a group that won a Nobel Prize for climate change as a committee. And Ratan Lal was part of that group. So that's who's here for soil.
So he shared the Nobel Prize with some others then?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep. Yes?
You mentioned that 30% are majoring in the sciences right now?
Well, majoring or minoring.
Majoring. So how does that fall in relation to class? Is that increased, do you know?
It is increased, which is, so, I mean, if you look at, so I haven't been at Gustavus a long time, so excuse what I don't know. But if you look at sort of just the large arc, first Nobel Hall got crowded because kids were more interested in STEM fields, and then built Olin, right? And that is where now we have math, computer science, physics, etc. And now we've got the same issue right inside Nobel Hall again. So it continues to grow in part because and this is a personal belief and some statistical information. We worry, right, about what am I gonna do when I graduate, and science feels hard and safe. And so that's part of it. Also, people are interested. And there's a ton of double majors. So science does continue to grow, but it does not mean that it's essentially pushing aside other things necessarily.
Oh, can I also add, if you've been on Augsburg, Luther, Concordia, Moorhead, who else? They've all redone their science buildings or knocked them down and started over.
Yeah.
So we needed this big time to compete. We were saying, oh, that's all right, we were losing students, the other science.
And Carleton's, they'll be doing theirs right now, the cranes on their campus.
Yeah, I think, the thing that I would add about that too, Dana's story is interesting, that he came to Gustavus, he thought he was going to be a doctor. Him and everybody else, right? I mean, so many people. So you think about the quantity, first from a recruitment standpoint, how important those natural science facilities are, but also the amount of students that they serve, particularly in those intro-level courses. As students are figuring out what they actually want to do, where they all come in thinking they want to be science majors, and many of them do end up becoming. We've got a great reputation, and that's wonderful. But especially those intro-level science classes, they are packed to the hill with students, and many of which end up pursuing something else at the end of the day. But it really is a very highly used facility on campus, and I think we can't get enough.
Okay, thank you.
So Angela, you had mentioned you had a couple of remarks.
Sure, yeah, I'll go really quickly on it. Yeah, I won't take up much time, but great to see everybody again. Many familiar faces from when I was here back in May.
Just wanted to give a quick update about people growth. So if you were here in that meeting in May, you know that I talked a little bit about what we're trying to do big picture to provide more career support and networking for alums, as well as enhanced student to alumni career exploration facilitation. And one of the big tools that we're going to use to do that is this technology platform called People Growth, right? It's developed by Stanford, by a startup that worked with Stanford. Really is a bellwether, very fine, excellent quality product, and we're working through the implementation phase right now. There might be a few of you that received an invitation this week to check it out. We're sort of in our soft launch phase. So 40 to 60 people received an invitation to sort of go in, tinker around with the platform, make sure we've got all the kinks worked out of it. You know, see if there are pieces of information missing, you know, instructions on how to get logged on that would be more user-friendly when we roll it out to everybody. So that's the phase that we're in right now. We've got most of the development done in consultation with the People Growth folks. So we are looking to roll it out more widely in the month of August. So stay tuned, right? If you got one of those invitations, right, some former mentors or current mentors maybe got an invitation, some staff members on campus received an invitation, please do tinker around and see if there's anything that we can do to enhance the user experience. Let us know, provide that feedback, and then we are going to work out those kinks and we're going to roll it out to everybody next month. So stay tuned and log on when you get ready. Thanks, Blake.
Thanks.
Angela, can you share how you're gonna promote it so people do use it? Because, you know, everybody gets so many emails, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. So what's the, you know, grab?
Yeah. It's a great question, and I think what you'll think about this group, for example, Gusties in Business, and think about the ways that you've been trying to connect and communicate with one another. There are ways to do that, but there are limitations with the current ways in which you're able to connect with folks that might share common professional interests. So what this platform will do is add a layer that improves those opportunities for organic connections. So for example, I know there have always been posts in the LinkedIn Gustavus alumni career community page. That page doesn't get a lot of actual activity, right? It's pretty stagnant. So we know, and the reason why it's pretty stagnant is because any of the messaging that goes on in there is really broad. I mean, we're trying to get a narrow audience, but there are 6,000 people in there, and not all of those folks are interested in business or any of the particular things that might be talked about. So what this platform does is help to facilitate the narrowing down of all of those subdivisions within the alumni community and to be able to target messaging that will be relevant for the folks in those groups. So when people come on the platform, they log on, they provide us information about what they're doing professionally, some of the affiliations they had at Gustavus, then we can use that information to sort of target marketing and communication within the platform as well. So I think that it will be a really big draw for folks because they want to network, right? I mean, this group is an example of something that Gusties are generally yearning for, see it as a value. But right now, the umbrella is just too big, right? So this platform will really help to narrow that down, allow you to search for people in particular industries, in particular geographical areas, with particular affiliations, you know, fellow athletes, fellow Greeks, fellow whatever, and facilitate the connections that way, and done in a really professional manner. Does that answer your question? Somewhat?
Yes.
Yes, and then some,
need
maybe.
to know that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. Yep, we will work on rolling out the top 10 reasons why you should join and keep marketing going. Any other questions? Great, awesome. Thanks, Blake.
Thank you. Next, we've got the news from the Hill, which we have sort of had a lot of news from the Hill with Megan's talk and Angela's, but I'll keep it brief. But some of you know that I have a son who's going to be a senior next year, and some of my commiseration with the folks that have helped with this group is, why does he want to look at Gustavus? And he went towards St. John's and loved it, and I'm just walking around St. John's going, so I was trying to get him to go to Gustavus, and you know, I think part of it is because I went there, so he's probably like, I don't want to, what are you going to have everybody spying on me when I'm there, you know? But they had private college week private schools week at the end of June. And so we my wife and I sort of attacked him by surprise. Like, you're not doing anything Wednesday, let's go down and see Gustavus. He's like, what? Like, you're not doing anything. I could repeat what I said. That's what, I'm trying to get him to go. And what's funny is that he actually texted my wife on Monday night. It's the summer, right? So he texted my wife and he said, I want to stay overnight at so-and-so's house tonight. Is that okay? And she's like, as long as you go down, fine. So we took him down there. I drove him down, and I just wanted to comment on the experience because, first of all, I was very impressed. But I will tell you that what really helped, and it's a little thing, but what helped is when I learned this was happening, then at the last minute I frantically sent an email to Angela and to Jess Frantis saying, I'm going to be down there. Can we do something to sort of impact him? What do you think? And so they were really great. They got back to me, what's he interested in, what's he like to do? So we kind of compared those notes, and he runs cross country, so he's interested in that, and he has a few other interests that we're trying to highlight. So we got there and we did the introductory check-in, and then they gave us lunch, and so he thought the food service was really nice there, but he was very quiet, and I was if my wife didn't go, if she was along, she'd have been like, what do you think now? I was like, I did not want to say anything. I was just like letting them take it in. Let's just see what happens. And so we're waiting for the official kind of program to start, where they give a kickoff talk, like, here's about Gustavus, here's the deal, and then they do a tour and everything. And so we're waiting for that. And as we're standing there, one of the other folks that was doing the check-in brings the cross-country coach over to us. And I just so he came over and spent 5 minutes dedicated to my son, talking to him about cross-country. That made a huge impact on him. He was like, kind of a big deal. And I didn't have the heart to say this was all organized. You're not being recruited. Until last night, they had no idea you even ran cross-country. But that was very significant, I think, in giving him a positive experience. But there were a few of the little things that really amazed me that he kind of took to. So we had a great tour guide. So first of all, that is huge. Like, whoever's giving you the tour, she was great. She had all the knowledge, and she was very personable, and she was engaging, and it was great. So the tour was great. The facilities were great. But some things that stuck with him that I thought were really interesting, like he's looking at the activities. There's a huge activities list that they give you. And he's like, they have frats here? Yeah, and he thought the dorms were much nicer than St. John's. They are. I don't like, when I toured St. John's, I'm like, this is like a hut. I mean, it's like literally 2 plywood doors that open up. There's nothing in the closet at all. Like, no storage, no nothing, So the dorms are nicer. He likes to play guitar and sing, and so he thought it was super cool that there was an area there with an open mic deal. But one of the things that was really weird that he liked, that we're walking along, is our tour guide was, I thought it was sort of a throwaway thing. The tour guide was like, well, and over there's the Arboretum. We're not going to walk through it, but it's actually, if you look at the aerial view, it's in the shape of the state of Minnesota, and the trees and plants are all geographically accurate based upon their location in the state. And I'm thinking to myself, this is pointless for you to bring this up with him. He has no interest in any of that. And as we're driving home, his only comment, I kept it quiet, afterwards I wasn't going to be like, how'd you like it? I just kind of drove, and his only comment on the way home, he was like, Arboretum's kind of cool. Okay. So, long story short, we had a really, really good visit. The Gustavus folks did a great job of organizing it. The tour guide was pivotal of doing a good job there. But I didn't say a word to him on the way home, and I didn't push it. And I didn't say a word to him at all. But my wife, she was eventually going to get in there and try to. So 2 days later, she was like picking up clothes off his floor as usual, and was like, "Hey, I never got to. How'd the visit go?" And to my surprise and her surprise, he immediately said, I liked about all we're gonna get out of it. I want to say that if you are going to go down and tour, now this was a good opportunity for us because it was the private college week, so it was all teed up already. But, you know, anybody's gonna be happy to tour your kid or help you get that going, so pay attention to those types of opportunities. And use them, because it does really, and you know, all of the improvements that are being made, I mean, everything is very impressive. So it's a good time if you have kids that are in that area to you know, get them down there and tour the college. So with
Please
that,
call us. Please call us.
Yeah.
Bend over backwards. Not
And
kidding.
And kudos to Blake because he was smart in reaching out to a couple people. You can provide that information directly to the admission office, and they do everything they can to really personalize visits, right? But the more information that's provided about the student's potential interests, you know, whether they be academic or extracurricular,
Yeah.
all of that really plays because we choose tour guides based on that, we set up appointments based on that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, be discriminating in that.
well, on the cross-country thing, it was actually kind of cute because you fill out a card when you get there. Like, it's like, you know, what are your interests? There's all these kids there, they're all filling out these cards, right? You throw them in a basket, and all they're really using that for is to figure out who your tour guide is gonna be. I mean, basically, it's my understanding is like, we're gonna match